Evening, folks. Phil here, and it's a Saturday, the 13th of May, and the family are downstairs doing whatever they're doing. Everybody's separate tonight. Teenagers, so it's not a whole lot of communal stuff going on. So I thought I'd pop up and do another book review. It's one I read earlier in the year, and this one is Silverview by John LeCarre. Now, John LeCarre is one of my favorite authors of all time. I have read every book the man's ever written. I have seen every attempt at films. I have seen the awesome miniseries of Smiley's People with the great Alec Guinness. And of course, the equally complex Smiley's People. Smiley's People is very complex indeed, but they did make a good job of it. I watched Gary Oldman become George Smiley for the short film Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and while I had my doubts, just because Alec Guinness is a very hard man to upstage, he did a grand job, and it was different. He played a more youthful, vigorous, gave him the sort of turned him into a man. He wasn't this sort of mousy, bookish guy. Obviously, loved his wife and stuff like that. It sort of gave him a bit more humanity than Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness did a great job, but he played him very much as the book said. Anyway, I'm really rambling. Just as good shit. I do love John LeCarre. And it was one of the few authors that I was quite upset about when I found out he died. I knew he was getting on. He was in his late 80s, but seemed fit, seemed whatever. So I thought maybe he'd carry on into his 90s, but death waits for us all, doesn't it? So he died in 2020. I think 2021. I think the Silverview came out. It was an unfinished manuscript. I think it was mostly complete. And then his youngest son, Nick Cornwell, finished it up. And I normally would buy the hardcover of his books, but I don't know. I just thought I can't. I'm not ready yet to leave him behind. Now, it might seem a bit silly, but there you go. So I did finally pick it up, and I think it took me about 24 hours to read over 2 sessions. It's not a long book. I don't know, 250 pages. Yeah. So what part Nick, his son, played in the manuscript, I can't tell. When I read it, it is John le Carre's clean, crisp prose. It's ostensibly about a young man who's left London and decides to move to the seaside to start a little bookshop. And there he comes into contact with a fellow called Edward, who is a rather well-spoken Pole. Edward's wife happens to be I'm not going to give away too many spoilers here. Edward's wife works for the service. If you've read any of John le Carre's books, you know what I mean. Not the circus. I mean, those were the old days, but whatever the circus has become. And she is a Middle East analyst, and it turns out that Edward has been a bit naughty. Edward has basically, his past is tied up in Bosnia, and he has a little PTSD, and it sends him on on a cause. So Edward's been a bit naughty and snuck into his wife's room in the house called Silverview, which is the title of the book. And the service gets wind of it. And so they go basically a looking. We've got the young man, Julian, the book owner. He gets tied up with Edward. Edward starts asking him for weird little favors. Can he go to London? Can he send this woman he used to know a letter? That sort of John LeCarre thing, you know. And if it was any other author, it would be tropish. It would be tropish. You've got the turned agent. You've got the sort of upper class gentleman. He just gets involved in the wrong thing, and the service ends up sort of using him against his will. You know, John Le Carre is very good at showing just like the effects that the government and the Secret Service has on ordinary people, or which I would imagine would have on ordinary people. He just pulls you into that world. And as I said, the prose is just so easygoing. It's just like drinking a big cup of coffee with a little bit of cream in it. It's just so smooth and easy to read. So it didn't take me very long to read at all. I'm probably giving this more of a praise than it might deserve. There was certainly he revisited a lot of the things that he's visited several times. The book really gave you nothing new. It ended fairly abruptly, but it ended well. I don't know if John Le Carre had decided to do more with it, and his son decided, well, it was good enough to end there. We'll never know, but 250 pages is a bit short. It was sad to see the old boy go, for sure. But if you're a fan of John Le Carre, you won't go wrong by reading this. If you've never read him before, maybe this isn't the place to start. You could go all the way back to A Murder of Quality, those sort of books. They're more singleton books. He introduces George Smiley pretty early on in his writing, but they're standalone stories. A few of them, you'll get the Carla trilogy. You've got Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and you've got for me, my favorite of the three is The Honorable Schoolboy. But that book is set in the Far East, it's set in Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for a few years, and it just sort of, I don't know, I just love that book. But we're here to talk about this one and not that one. However, what I mean, if you read the Carla trilogy, you have to read them in order. And then kind of after the Carla trilogy, I found Le Carre got angrier. You've got The Tailor of Panama, which is a bit of a comedy, which is basically, it's a standalone book. It is, again, somebody being abused by the service, but a completely different sort of scenario there. Anyway, I can't review them all, but I just review what I read, or what I'm reading lately. That's what I'm trying to focus on here. If you're a fan, definitely. If you're new, get to it eventually, but go through the catalogue. That's what I would suggest. It's published by Penguin Books. You should be able to find it anywhere. I'll give this a 4 out of 5. And I say there might be some sentimentality there. It's not his best book, but it's good. It's just, I wish I could write anything like this guy can. And it just puts you in that world. Sad to see the old boy go, but that's what I think. 4 out of 5. John Le Carre, Silverview. Thank you very much. All right, and I'll catch you on the next review or whatever. I decided to do on this channel. Take care. Goodbye.